May, could start us off by just going a little bit more in depth about those specific programs you run for your organization?
Sure. So our program, our students are striving to earn a national certificate. It's called the National ProStart Certificate of Achievement. I kind of like to call it a credential. And basically, it is classroom curriculum coupled with a 400-hour work internship experience. And we also have what we call the Student Work Experience Checklist, which is a checklist of 75 competencies and students that one of the criteria, along with completing both level 1 and level 2 of the curriculum, working the 400 hours, is completing the competency checklist. So students need to have an employer or supervisor, or sometimes in the case of a student-run business in a classroom, a teacher, check off that they have mastered or accomplished 52 out of the 75 competencies. So when a student completes all of that, then they're eligible to receive the National ProStart Certificate of Achievement. And that means that if a student goes in to the workforce directly, or they're already in the workforce but not interested in going on to post-secondary, that they have a certificate that they can walk into a restaurant or other food service venue, hospitality venue, and show what they have accomplished in the classroom in high school. That is actually everything that they have learned and mastered is actually listed on their certificate. And then if for a student that is going on to pursue higher education in the culinary and hospitality industry, and that degree program is pretty wide as far as what we look at. Culinary science, dietetics play a huge role in the hospitality industry. Those colleges in the state and then also across the country recognize those students for earning that certificate. And so, like I said, here in Iowa, we have 5 of the 8 colleges that are on board with our program. We're working on the others, but the National Restaurant Association has agreements with, I believe it's over 75 colleges and universities just across the country that recognize students that have earned their national credential.
All right. Thank you, May. David.
Hey, Marvin. Yeah. So first thing to clarify, we actually, at Deere have a number of different programs, apprentice programs internally to our system. What we're going to talk about is high school registered apprenticeship programs. And we actually don't own the programs. We're not the sponsors, and we're a business partner. And the high schools are the sponsors through the Department of Labor Registered Apprenticeship Program system. We work closely with the Department of Labor. Greer Sisson is the Iowa rep, right, to help the schools establish the standards for those programs. Like I said earlier, right now we participate as a business partner in welding, CNC machining, IT software engineering are those 3 occupations at this point. We plan to expand it into a customer service rep or a business type of a degree next year in looking at it, but really just following that model. And if you're not familiar with the model, real quick, what it looks like is we work with the schools. The schools, of course, will start working with their students in basic welding that sophomore, freshman year. They'll get into the advanced welding, the dual credits, which partnership with the community college that junior year. Then they'll start interviewing and kind of looking at candidates that will go into the apprentice program. So they're starting their work-based learning element this June for graduating juniors. And those juniors will work all summer in a work-based learning element under the apprentice program at a business partner. And then about half their day at work and half their day at school during their senior year. And then they'll get into post-graduation, a number of different options. And those are the apprentice programs that we participate in as a business partner. We started this with partnership with the local schools here at Davenport School District and North Scott in the Quad Cities. And we've expanded it to Dubuque, Ottumwa, Peyton, Iowa, Green School District, Des Moines, Central Campus, working with West Des Moines Valley, Ottumwa, et cetera, with that.
All right. Thank you, David. And Dan.
Thanks, Marvin. So, like I said, Ruan Transportation Management System actually has two different apprenticeship programs, the diesel technician, and then we've got a technology-based program. I'm going to speak to the technology-based one. Okay. So essentially, Ruan provides an opportunity for students to gain valuable work experience, earn income, and continue their post-high school education. Our thought process is to offer folks an alternative to a four-year college or university. We will pay for their ongoing training. We work, and actually David did a great job of describing high school apprenticeship programs in general, but we work with Central Campus and Des Moines schools. We target sophomores through seniors. We are linked to a specific training class around cybersecurity and technology. But our goal is to cultivate and grow more technologists with the desire to provide them with a long-term career at Ruan. Mm-hmm. They learn about our industry and the technology. There's structure to the program. It is competency-based. It does require the completion of about 2,000 work hours. We do focus on particular areas in technology, the service area, service desk, hardware components, and then IT operations. So through this three-year commitment, folks will achieve an apprenticeship certificate that they can take with them with their career, but they also have this wonderful opportunity to work for a great company in Ruan. It's a great opportunity to build skills, market yourself, and understand just how the corporate world works. And they've had a great impact for us. That's it, Marvin.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you. Appreciate that. So, I just want to say thank you all for, even just taking the opportunity for your organizations to engage with high school students and really working with the high schools. That it takes effort, and you all have definitely shown that you're committed to this process. So what value does your companies believe in and see from giving high school students these opportunities like this? And May, start with you.
Well, as you know, the Iowa restaurant industry and the restaurant industry across the country has really been hit hard by the pandemic. I know everybody has, but in workforce was an issue prior to the pandemic, and it's even more so now in our industry because, people left our industry to go pursue other industries. And it's been hard to either those people that left either aren't coming back or it's been slow to bring them back. So one of the big things that is important to our program and what we do, and we're going in to talk to high school students, is, I often ask the question, name some employment positions that you know of that exist within the restaurant and hospitality industry. And I get answers from students like, they always say chef, or they say manager, hostess, cashier, but they don't look beyond what they see when they walk into a restaurant. So a lot of what I do when I go in and talk to high school students is really try to build awareness about all the career paths that exist within our industry. We've always said that every industry leads to our industry. So, we need good human resource people. We need great marketing people. The other two gentlemen talked about technology. The restaurant and hospitality industry is 5 years ahead of where they would have been due to the pandemic when it comes to technology. We need CDL drivers that will drive groceries across the state to different venues and food service establishments. So, I think the value that ProStart brings to a classroom is just the awareness building of how, you know, if you're interested in the back of the house and you're committed to culinary and you want to be a chef, there's a place for you. But if you're a food photographer, or you like graphic design or marketing, or you love technology, you know, how you love social media, you know, how can you use those skills in the restaurant and hospitality industry? Because we believe that there's a place for students. And we've got a really big mountain still to climb. I think our industry has come a long way over the last 10 to 20 years with perception and how people think of our industry. But I feel like it's a continual learning process, and we've got a big job in continuing to build awareness among high school youth of what career opportunities and viable salaries and lifestyles that our industry offers, as well as getting that message to parents and making parents understand that this really is a valuable place, and their student may really excel and be successful in our industry with a well-paid, a good wage job, and upward mobility that probably happens a little bit quicker in our industry than it does in another industry. So,
thank you, May. David.
Hey, Marvin, I forgot to say, hey, also during all these phases that I talked about earlier, we pay the students, right? So, I mean, they get paid, which is awesome. You know, the benefits, of course, John Deere did a study, right? Like everyone else, we knew we weren't going to have enough people to do the work into these roles, given our demand and our future attrition, retirements, and different things. And we knew we had to do something different. And there was this demographic, right, of X amount of students that don't think they can do these types of roles, either due to myths or, hey, this is not a path to go, that we were not fully utilizing. And we put in, you know, part of this program is that community outreach down to the 7th graders and below, right, and 9th graders and freshmen and sophomores, to make them aware of these outstanding opportunities and show them that structured path. So the first value and benefit that we get is people do these roles. And like Dan said, there's technical competencies. So these are students that upon graduation at the age of 18 are going to be technically competent to enter these roles. In addition to that, there's a whole training and requirement around behavioral competencies. Showing up to work on time, working as a team member, communicating, right, and those different skills. So first and foremost, they're employees upon completion of the program, ready to enter the workforce, and we need those folks. The second value gain that we saw from this is engagement from our own employees. They were like practically adopting these students and mentoring them on the shop floor. When do I get to mentor a student and job shadow? Hey, what about my son's high school? Can they get engaged in this? Because they know that we need this, right, for sustainability long term and to keep our product, building them here, et cetera, with that. The third benefit, which I underestimated, is these students become our spokespersons, people into the community and into other students, and to influence their friends post-graduation to say, hey, you can work at Deere. And we've seen that relationship really expand, and it's been very valuable for us.
Thank you, David. Dan.
Well, Ruan as an organization has been very committed to our community. I mean, we're a large supporter of the World Food Prize, and that's important to us. But, you know, with that community focus, the interest in changing lives, and just providing a great opportunity, we recognize that this apprenticeship program, you know, could have a significant impact for folks. So essentially, the key reasons for folks to consider this is work-based learning opportunities, you know, working in a corporate environment to see how these, you know, folks in these big buildings work. In our case, high school credit, in some cases, college credit. And then David said it also, they get paid for the work. And so I kind of view it as a win-win-win-win for folks. But it is truly a program. Very proud of what we've done. I think when folks understand it and see the potential, they will want to buy into this and do it. From a technology perspective, unemployment is less than 1% in our space. And so the idea of introducing more younger folks to technology, helping them recognize that they can have a career in the space is critically important. So many of you probably have children. Many of you probably, like me, hand your phone to your children to say, hey, fix this. They understand technology much better than we did at their age. They're already on a path of technology. There is no business that does not run with technology. We saw this as a huge investment and a return for us just to get more folks into that workforce.
So is it safe to say that through your efforts of creating these opportunities for high school students, that it's created or widened the talent pipeline for your organizations?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Good. So, of course, you're working with the high schools, and David, you kind of threw out Greer's name earlier in the conversation. Can you walk us through the process your organizations went through in determining how to offer the apprenticeship versus the internship? What kind of went into those decision processes when you were kind of thinking of these opportunities? And I know you have a little bit of difference in some of your programming opportunities, but if you all could speak to that, how did you decide to go apprenticeship versus internship? And David, you can start with it.
Yeah, so we knew of the Pella model in conjunction with DMAC that had set up for the Iowa Governor's STEM Council, right? In that model, we had heard about it, and there was a large interest from both the schools and, of course, us, the business, right, to look at how to start this. And we took a trip. So we took a joint trip to Pella, learned about it. And that was in April of 2019, and came back and said, I think we can do this, right? And trying to figure that out. And really just took that. And the advice I give you is try it, do something, start small, right? And we started with 6 at Deere. There were 9 total students. And now we're going to be over 50, right? I think our estimates will be this year. And it just grew, and you can realize real quick that it's not as difficult, or there aren't as many barriers as you think there will be. Marvin, specifically why apprentices versus internships for us, per the child labor guidelines and Department of Labor regulations, in order to do this type of work, students can be down to the age of 16, under 18, as long as they're in a registered apprenticeship program. So there's guidelines that allow them to do this type of work in our facilities if they're in that program, but not for being registered in that formal program under the apprenticeship model. They would not be able to do that type of manufacturing work when it comes to welding, CNC machining.
Thank you, David. Dan.
Well, from Ruan's perspective, we already had an internship program, so that was well established. In late 2016, we recognized or had a similar link back to Iowa's focus on STEM and the desire to get more folks into STEM-related fields. And we initiated our apprenticeship program, the structure of it, in the first quarter of 2017. So working with Central Campus, we established pretty specific criteria back to these competencies to provide paths through our apprenticeship program. So we worked with the state, the federal entities, and Central Campus to define the specific paths that folks could follow through the technology. So we essentially had to lay out the competencies, the 3-year journey, how folks would be assessed, the feedback that they would get, and just structure the program to get it to be registered. We were the first registered IT apprenticeship program established in the state of Iowa. And so that structure is now out there and available for others to follow in those footprints.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan. May you have any additional comments on that one?
Well, like you said, our ProStart, our program's a little bit different. And back in 2012, when Governor Branstad kind of modernized career and technical education and started to require career education and all of those things, those components that went along with it, with that at a younger age in the school, there was a need for our program to establish that career connection. So our program falls in family and consumer sciences, which is the old home ec. Most people refer to it, our age refer to it as that, but it falls in that department in a school district. So in a it's kind of in the human services area as was where it falls under in the education arena. And there was a need for family and consumer science departments to choose a program of study, something that led to a career pathway. And so that's kind of how our program started to grow, is just kind of the revitalization that our state has gone through over the last several years when it comes to career and technical education. So ProStart filled that program of study need for those family and consumer science educators that chose the culinary pathway or the hospitality food service pathway in their classrooms.
Thank you. You know, some of you kind of touched on some of the early kind of wins you've been experiencing from the students and even your current employees. But you know, let's dive a little deeper. So let's be more specific. What successes have you actually seen from these high school students who have participated in your programs? But then at the same time, as you created your programs, what sort of successes were you looking for from the students who would actually be able to participate and go through the program? And we'll start with you, David.
Yeah, they're ready to work post-graduation and do the work that we couldn't find enough people to do, right? That's the greatest success. On a behavioral standpoint, the students really, it's great to see them develop. And there's 26 behavioral competencies as part of the program. Number 10 is do the show up to work on time. And the students have adopted this mantra of, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And it's awesome to see that, right? So, and then this whole communication of shaking hands, looking people in the eye. And we had one student who was not good at that. And then 8 to 10 months later is presenting in front of the UAW leadership out of Detroit, right? I mean, amazing to see that in their successes in doing that. They're also part of our community outreach. Right now, they're sharing their stories with others, right? We didn't, and they're really kind of those spokespeople that I talked about. But Marvin, you know, I mean, from a business perspective, we knew that if we didn't do something different, we weren't going to have enough folks to do this type of work. So this is our, that's their true success, is they're ready to work and able to come in and add value right away.
Right away. Thank you. Dan.
Well, when we started the program, it was a bit of an unknown. You know, technology for many folks can be scary because it's new, it changes, and it can be challenging. So it was when we started it was we needed to figure out what roles these students could play, and so we focused on the service desk. That's a very limited area in technology. Technology is much, much, much more than that. And I am happy to say that we extended our apprenticeship program to every facet of our IT teams. We were blown away with these students, their professionalism, how they came across, I reflect back to one of the first interviews. I had a manager that was a bit apprehensive of supporting a program like this. And after the interview, this individual was like, oh my gosh, these people are like so much further in their development and understanding and education than I was at their age. And shifted from being afraid of the program to, oh my, how many can I bring in? And so the biggest thing and the most exciting thing for us is, the fact that these students are now playing in every aspect of our technology space, even more complex ones like programming, et cetera. And I can't say enough things about how impressed we've been with these students.
Thank you, Dan. May.
All right, it takes me a while. I hate that mute button. Well, I'm going to echo what Dan and David said. The fact that these students have skills when they leave high school. We do an extracurricular activity that is also part of our program that I haven't talked about yet, but we do the very similar to state basketball tournament, state football tournament, state track. We do a state culinary and restaurant management competition. So it's Top Chef in the morning and Shark Tank in the afternoon. And students are charged with critical thinking on their feet. They have to put together a business proposal, and I'm talking about the management competition. They have to present it. And a lot of our professional judges that are in judging the competition, whether it be culinary or restaurant management, year after year, they come up to me and say, we can't believe that these students are just in high school because of the skills that they showcase either in the culinary competition or in the restaurant management competition. And they just rise above. They're wise beyond their years because of the classroom curriculum, the on-the-job training, just getting in front of and connecting with these mentors that are in the industry. They're valuable employees, and a lot of the times our guys, when they're coming in to judge, want to hire our students right on the spot. Again, just what David and Dan said about being ready to work, having those important transferable skills and interpersonal communication skills are what these types of programs really bring out in youth and students.
Thank you, May. So, we've talked about the wins and some of the successes, but, in the reality of it all, we know that not everything is always smooth sailing. And so let's kind of pivot a little bit here and let's kind of talk about more of some of the challenges you've encountered in hosting these various programs. And are there any unique challenges to working with this high school age demographic? Dan, I heard you kind of touch a little bit on some of those out of those 28 competencies you talked about. So you want to dive into that a little bit deeper, Dan, with some of maybe the challenges that you faced along the way?
Sure. I referenced the early one of just having managers feel comfortable with high school folks working on their staff. The other aspect is during the school year, 10 to 20 hours a week is the limit for these students to work with us. And so having managers and leaders, having them have the ability to coordinate a partial resource, one that might come in at different times. And so there is some upfront work that needs to go on for folks to be thoughtful about work, have a backlog of work, et cetera. I would also recommend a coordinator, a person that is working with, the schools that you're aligned with, as well as the students. This is human capital. And so making sure that, we're listening to the students, we're giving them feedback, we're responding to the feedback that they give us. All these things need to take place to make sure that the program, continues in a strong fashion.
Thank you, Dan. And David, my fault, I switched up your competencies with Dan stuff. So there you go. So David,
he's got the same ones. Yeah,
same ones. All right, cool. So, David, you have any more additional insights then around some of the challenges you all, because you all have spread across the state pretty well. So I'm pretty sure you've seen some different things along the way.
Oh, yeah. One of the key objectives here that we know, because we had these programs from a manufacturing standpoint in the past, right? And this is common in Europe and Brazil and other areas around the world, but we lost that in the US. And really, it's about sustainability on both sides, from a business partner perspective and from a school perspective. So some of those challenges today that prevent that sustainability are a consistent kind of approach and a process on the business side to support these students, and having a long-term strategy towards, hey, we're going to need this pipeline to be, out there over the time, even though we go up through ups and downs on hiring, right? In doing that. From the school perspective, that becomes an issue, once again, on human capital, about instructors. And this is what we're seeing. Right, the biggest bottleneck right now that we're seeing in this is the number of instructors in the school systems, because kids hear about this, students hear about this, and they're like, wait a minute, I can get paid, I can learn this, and then they're flocking to these programs. So those are the two long-term challenges, strategic challenges that we think about all the time. There's also 10 tactical ones, and we did this for businesses, and we shared this on the Iowa Governor STEM best practices site about a number of different questions that businesses may have. First and foremost is under the age of 18, age requirements that I explained earlier, insurance, right? How does pay work, and all those different things that we didn't know, and really helped solve that first year by just participating in it and getting going on it. So we've been able to overcome all that. But it's about sustainability is the concept that we got to maintain.
Thank you, David. May.
Well, I think one challenge that we have, and I think there's a lot of factors, and maybe it's because our program is not an official apprenticeship program in the state of Iowa. And even though it does have that work component in order for a student to complete our program, students like high school age aren't working, I don't think, as much as we all worked when we were growing up. There are so many activities and so many other opportunities that occupy a student's time that, I always had ingrained in my head, because my parents told me that as soon as you turn 14, that's when you can go out and get a job. I, from the day I was 14, worked and had a job, sometimes 3 at a time. But that's one of the goals that my board is addressing is, okay, here are, we have 1,400 students in our program, but just under 25% of them are actually working out in our industry as a high school student. And so what can we do to get more of those students working in our industry? And the other thing is, there are companies that are very good at working around high school students' schedules. They're just happy to have them. So they're going to try to do anything they can to make it work with a young person and a high school student. But I think that's probably our, and one of our goals is, we've got all these students, they're obviously interested, or they wouldn't be in the program. So how can we actually get them out working to fulfill that component of the overall program? Because that's the goal. That's why we're all here, right? So
right. Thank you, May. So, you in some of your conversation topics around challenges, you touched on some of the things to think about long term for other potential employers in this space. But what are some other recommendations you would make to employers really looking to engage in these similar strategies with the high school students or even college? Dan. Bye.
Well, a few things. This is a pipeline, so you need to have a strategic point of view and look to the future. We target a number of students every year to come into the program. We would like to see 10 to 20% of them come in and work for Ruan long term. And so that long-term planning to say we're hiring, X number of folks every year out of this program, I think is important. That commitment back to what David had referenced earlier. That's been pretty important for us.
Okay. David.
Really what this program's doing is making that contact earlier to allow students to do something that they're passionate about and showing them that structured path to get there, and helping them realize that post-graduation, they can enter right into these roles. Whereas the past, they didn't think they had to go and explore and look at some different things. And this is a great opportunity for any business to engage with that pipeline earlier through these formal programs and getting that done. Marvin, I just also, y'all are probably major contributors in your local communities, and the impact that this makes to these students. And here's some quotes. Abby Parsons, female welder, Davenport West, but not for this program, I would have dropped out of high school. So think about that impact that you're having on the community, that someone can come in and now they're making $60,000, $80,000 contributing to society. All of them invest in their 401k. High school students, 16, investing in their 401ks, right? And it's nuts. So you can make an impact on this and have a significant impact on your community.
You touched on something there, David. I can almost have a whole separate webinar around as far as, how important the opportunities are for those young people that may not go to college and have these opportunities to go through these apprenticeships and really start working as soon as they come out of high school in these careers. So that's great to hear. May, what things would you recommend as well for employers to think about engaging in this space?
Well, I always tell restaurant owners, you need to make it a part of your yearly plan to get into the classroom. If it's not you, the owner, operator yourself, send a manager, send a chef to do an exciting demonstration. But really making that connection in the classroom. These teachers have a lot on their plate. So whenever an industry professional reaches out to them and says, hey, I'd like to come and show your students how to make, bananas Foster, or talk about my career as a chef in the industry and where I started and all the great things I've done and where I've been able to visit and how I'm making good money right now. And so I'm always telling our guys, I know you're busy. I know it's hard right now to even take a moment of time out of your business, but you need to get into the classroom. You need to connect with these youth. Get them excited about what you're doing, because I could go in and talk until I'm blue in the face about careers, but I'm not as interesting as my guy that's traveled the world and worked with celebrity chefs and been on Top Chef season 16. Those guys exist in the state of Iowa. And so that's my biggest recommendation is just to get yourself in the classroom in front of these students to share your career experiences.
Thank you, May. So in, starting your individual programs and getting them launched and then moving along in the direction you wanted to head, are there any resources you leveraged or individuals you leaned on for guidance along the way during this process? And I'll start with you, David.
I want to echo May's comments. They don't want to hear from David O, right? They want to hear from James Hotchkiss and Mario Suarez, right? From the welder on the floor and those folks to get into the details and show their paths that are very similar to them that they can make as high school students, right? And having that team, right, is important, critical to do that. So this is a joint partnership, right? And reaching out, and I saw a question in the chat, is it requires both parties, right? And mainly the curriculum and the training from the school and the opportunity for the work-based learning element at a business. And so the first thing to do is to reach out to those schools and looking at it. Another key resource that I brought up earlier, Career Assistant at the Department of Labor will do anything to help you set up a program or work with a school. She's phenomenal. Her team is phenomenal. They know how to do this. I can assure you, we probably have draft standards ready to go for over 1,500 occupations across the state of Iowa that can help you see the structure on how to get this going.
David, Dan.
Well, the answer's out there. We've done it. So that the how is well defined. I would echo the comments regarding Greer and her focus in this space. But we have the structure out there. If folks are interested in a technology-based registered apprenticeship program, it's defined. The competencies are there. The process around getting feedback and assessing those competencies is well defined. So I think we've got a great starting point for folks that are interested.
Thank you, May.
Early on, when we were kind of just chugging along, and my focus was not on our foundation, I was working for the actual restaurant association. We went from just having 3 schools for a number of years, and then in 5 years went from 3 schools to 5 schools to 8 schools to 17 schools to now 30 schools. And our big partner was the Iowa Department of Education. We actually had a couple of, they were career and technical education consultants focused primarily on family and consumer sciences. So, I'm a staff of 1. And when those 2 consultants were out on the road, when they were talking to FCS teachers and to school districts, they were saying, okay, here's a program, here's a model program of study that exists. So I would, credit the Iowa Department of Education for a lot of our growth early on. They do have those consultants that focus on different areas of study and education. They really are credited with our growth and getting the word out about our program. And, now Jessica Dunker, our president and CEO of the Restaurant Association, you can't go a couple of days without seeing her on the news. So just the fact that she's been more visible with our association, when people think about anything that has to do with restaurants or bars or food service establishments, hospitality, hotels, lodging, they're now calling us and picking up the phone and saying, hey, how can you help with this? Or you partner with us on this. So, but yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, thank you. And just for those that are listening as well, there's other resources as well. Every community college has a staff member that's dedicated to helping you make these connections in work-based learning as well. So, because I know sometimes the high schools have constraints as far as their staffing capacity. So you can always look for that Iowa Workforce Intermediary Network or even your local area education agencies. They're also very helpful in these processes as well, just because I know sometimes you want to find other ways to maybe get things done. So those are just some additional options. So one question I always like to ask, and I'm pretty sure you all have seen some of the benefits from just in your everyday practices. How important do you all place an emphasis when you are thinking about these apprenticeship programs to make sure that they're inclusive? Ranging from, for students have such a wide range of diversity, from students with disabilities, your different marginalized communities that you have within the high schools of students. How important do you all feel that moving forward with these opportunities that we are inclusive and that's how important you think that'll impact as far as moving forward in the future? And we'll start with David.
Marvin, this is a major initiative, and really it's getting into that outreach earlier on in the student's career. So I'll give you an example of something that we're working on up in Waterloo. We've partnered with Hawkeye Community College or a nonprofit called UniQ to take students from underrepresented areas during the summer to participate in a program called Ignite. It's an 8-week basic introduction to manufacturing, but it helps them kind of get into understanding what are the options and what's available. And it could be used as a catalyst to enter those programs, either high school apprenticeship programs or anything beyond that, or different careers. But the point is, it's a targeted approach during the summer to keep students engaged in these types of activities instead of other types of activities that could get them in trouble, and to give them some options to think about. So it's critically important, and it starts earlier on than later. You have to proactively be inclusive. You can't wait for folks to come to you and hope that it happens.
Thank you. May.
Well, I think our industry has proven itself in having a place for all kinds of populations. I don't have the statistics here in front of me, but one of the things we've been involved with just recently is educating the reentry population. So providing some important certificates that those folks need when they do get out of prison, that they can go into a restaurant or hospitality venue with some really solid certifications. And from our minority populations to the reentry populations to underrepresented youth, troubled, homeless. I mean, there's just all kinds of programs and stories that exist within our industry, success stories of, those populations finding a place in the restaurant and hospitality industry. And it's definitely there. And, the opportunities for those folks, I think are abundant and lucrative and very beneficial for those types of folks.
Thank you. And Dan.
Ultimately, what we were looking for is to provide an alternative path for folks to come into the workforce. And so we're not looking for folks that are going on to college. We want to be their college. We want to provide work-based learning, exposure to things, and then provide additional ongoing training through vehicles like DMAC, Iowa State, and other of the local universities. So our program, 75% of the students coming to us are diverse. And, it's one of the success stories I see in our program. We are looking to provide an alternative, but also an opportunity. I mean, when folks 20 years from now, I would love to have, the bulk of the students that have gone through our program look back and say the path that they're on is much different than it would have been without this program.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. As we're getting close to coming to a close here, I want to give you all an opportunity to provide any last or additional thoughts or comments for employers that may be watching today or even later. So now we'll start with you, David. Any final words or thoughts you'd like to impart to those watching?
Give it a try. One student, one business, that's all it takes to set up a registered DOL program. Start small. You're going to learn a ton. You're going to overcome all these myths, fears that you think are out there. And you don't need to create this on your own. You've got a number of businesses. I'm sure Dan and May and everyone on this call or other businesses that can help you. And you have schools that can help you. And then you got a great support between the governor's office, Iowa Workforce Development, the community colleges, and Department of Labor. You can do it. My advice is give it a try. Pick something that you need and go for it.
Thank you, Dan. Dan.
Well, I look at this as a building opportunity. I mean, if you think about your first job opportunity and the affinity that you have for it, I mean, students coming into this program and this being the first job, the first company or entity that, appreciated them, valued them, et cetera, there is a longevity there. I'm like I said, I'm hopeful 20 years from now, the folks that look back and have this career change, they're still working at Ruan. And so selfishly, it's been an awesome program to introduce more folks into technology and meet our particular needs, but also change the lives of the people that are going through it.
Thank you, Dan. May.
You don't have to recreate the wheel. All of these programs exist, these models exist. And like the other two gentlemen said, you've got folks that are willing to help you. So, speaking from the National Restaurant Association, when they established their federal apprenticeship programs, they knew that a restaurant operator probably going to take the time to fill out any kind of paperwork that went along with that. So they had committed to actually helping and doing that for restaurants. And I'm pretty sure they're still doing that today. But, the resources, the programs, the partnerships, the people that are willing to help are all exist and are there. So although it might feel like a big thing to be taking on, I think you would find that it is rather easy because of all the folks that are already doing it and have the models in place and just have to copy whatever everyone else is doing.
Thank you. So as we come to a close, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. Your insights have been spot on. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to share these insights with everyone being able to watch today, and for those that can download the information later. And for those that are joining us for the first time today, again, this is the fourth edition in our series we've had. So please, if you get an opportunity, go back to our Greater Des Moines YouTube channel. We have previous episodes that speak to internship opportunities and other things to help make sure we're creating the best talent pipeline we have here for the Greater Des Moines region. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. That's also something to remember. Every the fourth Wednesday, typically of the month, is when we have these webinars. So you can always go out to the partnership calendar of events and find and register for the next one. So thank you, panelists. Until next time, look forward to seeing you down the road. And for all those out there watching today, let's get these apprenticeships started and help keep our young people here in Iowa. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.